Wednesday appointment here at 7:51, brought to you by Pacific Point, Cabo Enterprises, ITN, and Jack in the Box. Good morning, Madam Speaker.
Good morning, Chris and Sabrina and KOAM. Good morning, Guam.
So I guess we just start with your bill. Is it 217, Bree?
Yeah, yes, 217.
217.
That's the war claims bill.
Correct. And so there's just been there's a lot of developments. Wow, since we had you on a Monday morning with a whole walkout and all that stuff with the error. But you introduced 217 as the remedy, right?
That's correct. Yeah, there are several ways to remedy this, trying to get a way that we could get consensus on. So this remedy would be we put in an identical bill so that it did not need to have a public hearing because this bill had already had a public hearing. So we put in an identical bill. It's on the floor now. So on Monday we will have discussion and they are free to amend it if those amendments are found to be in order. And we will proceed from there and hopefully rectify the error that was made unintentionally. And so, but you're right that our session was impeded by repeated walkouts and refusals to come to session. But I'm hoping that that does not occur again on Monday because that just delays really us getting to a solution here. And I think everybody wants a solution. Well, I hope everybody wants a solution. I can't see why they wouldn't, but there's a lot of rumors going around.
Well, we did have the minority leader, Senator Chris Duenas, on. That was yesterday, no?
Yeah.
Yeah, and he had high praise for you and your Bill 217.
Well, good. I hope that means that they're going to show up and stay in the room and work with us.
Right, and I think even the co-sponsor, Senator Moylan, was mentioning that because I was wondering if it's the original bill, but weren't there amendments during the debate on the original bill that were included aside from the
amendment?
Right.
That's correct. But that was in the bill, on Bill 217, as introduced by myself, I did not include any amendments that had been made on the floor because those were not part of what had a public hearing, right? So I put in the bill as originally introduced by Senator Barnes and we are Vice Speaker Barnes and we're going to go forward and they are free to make amendments on the floor as they wish. So that's how we're going to proceed.
I think the one though amendment he was saying that had to be made was the rescinding of the public law, right?
Correct. If they want to repeal the law that had passed with the error, then we're going to have to include a line in there that says we are repealing that or the whole entire law or repealing that section of the law. We're going to have to do that. Yes, I agree that is part of the solution. I don't want to set the record straight. There's been a lot of talk about what really got me is this talk of lack of transparency and, that we are not openly in front of the people of Guam saying, showing what happened here. And I just beg to differ with that because from day one, when I discovered the error, and I want to thank Senator Taitagui for pointing it out to me, because no one else had pointed it out to me. And that, we tried to find how it happened. And I went even further and I wanted to get that in writing in front of the senators so that they would themselves, each of them, have the facts. And so they do. And the facts are very clear that not only was there a clerical error, it was missed by council. It was missed by every single one of us senators. And every single one of us senators, rose our hand and said aye or nay to the bill. It was a unanimous consent on the bill. So we all said yes. And we all had that responsibility to review what we are voting on and vote yes or no. So that's why, I take full responsibility and I try to do my best to make sure that everybody has the facts in front of them, that I gave it to the media, I gave it to the public, I'm on the radio, I'm trying to tell everyone, yes, there is an error. No one is trying to hide that. No one's trying to hide how it occurred and no one's trying to hide the almost, crazy amount of oversight that was lost here, right? All of us, each of us is responsible. And I take full responsibility for my own vote on that bill. And so I'm trying to rectify it. And I want that to be done as soon as possible.
can you talk about these letters that you had just sent out here? I want to say about the CRER. I'm totally lost with the
Sure.
CRER
This
thing.
is okay. So every month they give us the expenditure and revenue reports, right?
Mhm.
So this is how we base whether we're going to have excess revenues at the end of the year, or how we predict, or whether we've under projected, I guess, in revenues. So that's what happened for the last several fiscal years. We have been very conservative in our appropriation amounts, in our spending during our budget bills, and we have ended up as a government with excess revenue over what we have appropriated, right? And so it looks from the CRERs that we have received that we will be, again, having excess revenues, unbelievably, right? But excess revenues based on what we appropriated in fiscal year 2021. And we were very conservative because of the pandemic at that time, right? We did not expect revenues to be what they are today. But the revenues have been good for different reasons. But the revenues, because they're projecting in excess of 40 million. We tried before to take 10 million from what we knew was going to be excess and allocate that towards the hospital, and they said they would not abide by that law. So we tried in this FY20 or this last budget session to do something different. We increased the revenue projection for FY21, accounted for at least $20 million of the excess revenue that we pretty much knew we were going to have, and put that towards refunds. But we received but the CRERs continue to reflect 40 million in excess. They don't account for the 20 million that should have been allocated to refunds. And so that, of course, very much disturbs me, because it's another, I'm not going to follow this law either, right? And we're going to decide where all the 40 million gets to be spent, and the legislature's allocation of it towards refunds. It looks to me like they're taking that as a suggestion. That's the language that's used in BBMR's letter to my staff, is the speaker made a suggestion in the budget bill. Well, I beg to differ. That is actually a law that was passed by the legislature, the entire body. It's a law that was signed by the governor, and it's not a suggestion, it's a mandate. The mandate of reporting these revenues and expenditures is in statute, and and this amendment to our budget, or an FY21 budget, it's a mandate as well. And this whole attitude of we're going to pick and choose which laws we abide by, or we're going to pick and choose which type of accounting we do, that is a disservice to not just the legislature, who is trying to do its role of appropriating, responsibly, but it's also a huge disservice to the people of Guam. I don't think in any other government we've got, the executive branch who says that they can take money and spend it however they want. That's not done. Not even the president of the United States can do that. Congress controls how the money is spent, and that is exactly what the legislature is exerting its role here in trying to prioritize refunds. There's that's
so you wrote
so that's
to
really the bottom line, is who sets the priorities, or are there no limits on what the executive branch can do with the money? I think that's false.
Ask you to hold that thought. We're going to jump over to KUAM TV and continue this conversation right now on The Link. Good morning. Good morning, Guam. Good morning, KUAM TV. Welcome to another episode of The Link. You know what they say, miss a link, miss a lot, so don't miss it. It's probably brought to you by Pacific Points, Cabo Enterprises, ITNE, and Jack in the Box. We now continue our conversation with Speaker Terlaje. Good morning, Speaker.
Good morning.
Good morning.
If I could, we were talking before we transferred over about excess revenues, right? So for FY21, we had underappropriated. We did not spend all the money that the government collected in revenue. And so we tried to take 20 million of it's not a $40 million excess, it's a $62 million excess. So we tried to take 20 million of that and allocate it and prioritize it towards tax refunds, which I believe, despite their, payments regularly, we are still behind in tax refund payments. And so we tried to prioritize that 20 million, and pretty much they are not reflecting that in any of their reports so far. They are saying that was just a suggestion of how the money should be spent, and that they seem to think they have $62 million that they can spend however they want. And so I'm asking the AG and the OPA to take a look at this and to hold them accountable if they can, as to the reporting of the excess revenues and as to the expenditures as well.
Okay, so let me just rewind. So the CRER report comes out for September. It shows $62 million, but you're saying in the budget law, you're supposed to deduct out the 20 million because it's supposed to go to tax refunds. That is the ultimate priority, which means then we have 42 million in excess. But but the BBMR said that, that 20 million thing in the budget law, that was just a suggestion. We don't really have to do that. And so you wrote to the AG and said, look, and the OPA, can you kind of straighten these guys out that this is a law? They were supposed to take it out and reflect 42 million.
That's correct. I also wrote to the governor because, I've been receiving correspondence from BBMR, but I want to take this to the governor directly. So I wrote to her as well because, this is, I think this is really the only responsible thing that we can do is follow the laws. We can't be going our own way on this type of thing. Mm-hmm. This is how we end up with, overspending, is when people decide to not follow laws and spend whatever they want.
Have you?
And I want to add that I think it's the same type of mechanism where I put the 20 million for the refunds that they're trying to use to fund the additional LEAP, the local side of the LEAP program. Yeah. Mm-hmm. So that's why I think it's very important that we do an accurate accounting of excess revenues at this point, and whether they're excess or whether part of that's supposed to go towards refunds.
Mm-hmm. When you say the local fund, the LEAP program, is that the Senator Amanda Shelton's bill?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes. Okay. Yes.
So when did you write the governor? Have you?
I think the same day after I received the response from BBMR, where they used the word, the speaker made a suggestion in the budget bill. I wrote to her that same day, or right around then.
Yeah, and I could just imagine, were you hot? Like, oh my gosh.
Me, yes. There's just, I just am surprised, and people tell me, don't be surprised, but I am surprised. It's surprising and shocking, actually, that people who are public servants are going to treat, laws like that we pick and choose which ones we follow. I don't agree with that at all.
Speaker,
I hope nobody agrees with that.
Yeah, but I mean, you guys let it happen before with the $10 million for GMH, right? So this is actually, precedent has been set. Dangerous precedent that is unchallenged. So how do we challenge it?
But it's different. Well, at that point, we went to the AGs and we asked them, can you enforce this? And they said no. And so that's why in this law, we did it differently. And so I want to know if this works. And if this doesn't work, let's be frank, then is our entire budget just a suggestion, to the executive branch? Or, that makes no sense. And that's not how it's treated in other jurisdictions. So you're right, Chris. If we're going to continue to get opinions that we cannot enforce these laws, or we, then we're going to need to do something different.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
Because, for every dollar that's spent outside of what's been appropriated, for example, not on refunds, that's what creates these years of delay in refunds, right? And I'm really worried about that, because we might be happy today that, we're getting our refund, but there are still, if you look at the numbers of refunds that have not been paid out, although they are already processed, there's still quite a lot. There's a lot. And that's why I don't agree with spending the money elsewhere until we take care of those obligations. And those Those are, to me, easy ways to put money into people's hands when these people need money right away. And people need money still. And this is another thing, I hope everybody is still on the same page, that we have not taken care of the people who are out there who have no longer receiving PUA, who still are unable to resume, their employment, and families with additional expenses because of COVID, and that we haven't taken full care of those people yet. We've got federal funds to do that, but again, that's another one. We have no plan as to how that's going to be fully distributed. I want to thank you, Sabrina, for keeping a good accounting on that. I think you guys have done a great job of keeping track of everything they said, and really that's how we are learning about it verbally. We learn about it because they said they were going to give this much money to somebody, and that is no way to run a government. I think we need a plan. We need something that can be vetted not just by senators, but by the people of Guam as well. We've got agencies that are deliberately underfunded. They came in and asked for less than they needed based on promises that they would receive ARP. We haven't seen those promises, kept yet. And we're seeing other programs being implemented. And it's, I don't know, in other jurisdictions, they've done it differently, right? They're all different, but there are some jurisdictions where they work together with the legislature to make sure that the entire community is taken care of. That's what the funds are for, to take care of the community, to show, what we're going to use federal funds for, so that the legislature can in turn prioritize the use of local funds to fill the gaps, to make sure that we don't leave anyone behind.
I mean, no, it makes perfect sense. I did want to ask, in the budget law, was there also a provision, because you guys haven't gotten the plan for how the ARP funds are going to be spent, but is there a provision in the budget law that says, well, you guys have to tell us then what has been spent?
Yes, there is. And that was added by Senator Taitukui, I believe, or she proffered an amendment to do that. And I think the deadline for that is November 5th. It says that they're supposed to report.
And that's
but we had August. I know the Treasury had an August reporting date as to expenditures. So I'm not sure what was sent as Guam's expenditure report at that time. But I'm hoping we get a copy of that.
So that November 5th deadline, is that like a deadline or a suggested deadline?
Suggestion.
That's what I'm saying, right? If they're going to pick and choose that this line is a suggestion, this one is a mandate, this is jungle rules government. And so I would say that is a deadline. And I think the legislature is interested to see how we can hold them accountable to that. A lot of government is, unless you want to spend your entire time in lawsuits, right? A lot of it is trust. I mean, we're talking about public servants, and, can we trust them or can we not? That's really the issue here. So I say, let's just be straightforward with the people of Guam, not hide this kind of spending, not hide our plans, and let's put it up in front of them and let them help us. I think we have to be humble. And I think let them help us to make these plans better. We all have desires or, ideas that we think would be great to use this ARP money on. But I think those ideas will only get better by being vetted. And that's why, I'm just humbly asking that they do that, because otherwise we are going to continue like this. We're going to continue to have a divided community. With every expenditure, there will be unnecessary criticism because we have other pockets of services that are not funded at all, right? And I just don't see how that can be. We had a hearing the other day on adoption, and they, talked about how underfunded foster care is. At the request of public health, I might add, they asked that we not fund, certain programs over there because they were going to take care of it through ARP. And that's what I'm talking about. It's like, we cannot run a government with without these things being put in writing and being vetted.
Oh, God. That's
so at what point do you go from humbly asking, though, to demanding?
Well, we are demanding. We put it into law, Sabrina. That's what I mean. And so we're asking the AG, our OPA, and those people who are in the branches of government to enforce these laws. We're asking the governor, who's ultimately responsible for enforcement of the laws, to enforce the laws. You know, we make the laws and we help to prioritize expenditures, but enforcement, unfortunately, we have to rely on the other branches.
I wanted to kind of talk a little bit about some of the agencies that you have oversight over, and one of them is obviously public health. Have you heard anything on the consolidated facility for isolation and quarantine? Because they opened the bid, I want to say on October 11th.
I don't know the result of that bid.
Okay.
That's what you're asking. I don't know the result. I have a meeting today, I think this afternoon, with the director of public health, which I will ask, but I'm not sure the results of that bid.
What about the issue related to Eagles Field, the new state-of-the-art healthcare complex, and concerns from original landowners? Have you heard anything from any more original landowners or anything from the Ancestral Lands Commission?
Yes, actually. Well, first of all, I've been in course, direct communication with the Ancestral Lands Commission director, their chairperson, and they seem to have no knowledge of any land transaction. They're not involved in any of the negotiations at all. And so, and they have not been formally informed of anything, of even which properties are being considered. But they were able to give me a listing of the Eagles Field area, the lot numbers, and the landowners that they have on record for those lot numbers. So I want to thank them for their help in that regard. They, the people doing the negotiations, we're guessing, I'm guessing based on, I did a FOIA as well to the governor's office, and all I got back was some email communication between Vera, I think at the military buildup office, with the Department of Land Management director and some military officials. I'm sorry, I don't have the document in front of me right now, but some military officials, that they were going to discuss, the license itself, but they did not attach any license that they had been discussing. It was only that email that I received. But so, and we've asked this at every public hearing we've had, and we've asked it during the committee of the whole that we had on Bill 121, which was the financing of that medical center. And none of neither the governor nor her staff nor her cabinet have come forward with any license draft or anything, or any specifics of even which properties they're going to be, taking for this use. So, but I have in my office received calls and visits from landowners, and I'm always impressed by how smart the people of Guam are. And these landowners, they didn't miss a beat. They're right on it, and they come in with full files of every transaction that has occurred in regards to their property, and they want to know, why is no one talking to them? Why have they been bypassed in this entire process of people talking about use of their land? And I want to know, why are we discussing a complete bypass of our existing mandate, right? Again, it's not my mandate. It's a mandate that was made decades before me. And they said at that time they were trying to right an injustice. And I don't think, finding a clever way to bypass this system is a good faith effort to remedy an injustice. It really just perpetuates an injustice, and I don't know, it feels like opening an old wound again, right? When we find the government intentionally bypassing that process. I think there are so many ways that we can resolve it. If they really want to use those people's particular property, it's obvious it's access to the military. They were willing to lease it out to the government of Guam for 50 years at minimum, right? That's excess land. That means they do not need it. They're not using it. And in good faith, it should be the governor negotiating that get returned, not licensed back to us. Remember when they tried to license, the Fenner Reservoir or parts of it right back to us, and we had every single senator at that time down there protesting? We should all be up in arms if we are going to be asking them to license excess lands back to us, as opposed to returning those lands to us, and as opposed to following our policy. And if we want to change the policy of what we do with lands that is returned, and meaning if somehow the government of Guam or the people of Guam have changed their minds and they don't want to give it back to the ancestral landowners anymore, then that should be put into a law. They should repeal the law that currently exists, and they should make it very clear. They should come up in front of the people of Guam and answer for that, and not, just do it behind their backs. I really feel strongly about this, because this is decades of work where we got lands returned, first of all, and decades of work that, we have made these judgment calls to remedy injustices by returning lands. And we can debate that if we want to again, but as far as I'm concerned, these were efforts to remedy an injustice. I still believe there was an injustice, and that we should not be bypassing those remedies.
Is there anything you can do, I guess, on your end? I don't know, calling in Verit Bosnia, calling in the Ancestral Lands Commission.
Another
Yes.
hearing, maybe.
Yeah.
Yeah, we're working on that. We've got a tentative date set. My goal is, I'm not sure if the governor has heard from these ancestral landowners, because when they come to my office, they're pretty clear that no one has talked to them. And, that really hurts me. And so I want them to be heard. That's my priority. They should be heard. Second of all, I think the law should be reiterated and made very clear that this is what our law says. This is what we're supposed to do when there are excess lands. And third, people up there who can answer as to who is doing the negotiations on behalf of the people of Guam, I think they should be accountable. My problem is it's very hard to determine who is negotiating on our behalf, right? First of all, there's no authority that we've given to anyone to negotiate on our behalf to license property back from the military. It's unheard of. And so I would like to, anyways, we're working on that, and we're trying to set up the parameters for when we do have a hearing, who can we call, and who can we mandate to appear?
Not suggest.
Right.
Oh, sorry. Speaker, we got to get into the news, but before you go, I wanted to gas you up a little bit. We did have some comments here. Elizabeth comments in, I totally agree the tax refund should be paid. Unheard of that people don't get their tax returns on a timely basis. Rosemary says, Speaker, then treat her mandates as suggestions. She continues, the governor was a senator, so she fully understands how laws are created and should be followed along with her directors. Elizabeth comments, Speaker Therese Terlaje, you're on top of it. Glad you're serving the people of Guam. Jadine comments in here, Madam Speaker, it's so refreshing to have a real leader with honesty and integrity. Many others talk the talk, but you walk the walk. You were busy looking into the clerical error and protected the admin staff from being bullied by the public for a mistake, while others were busy attacking and pointing fingers. Thank you for always taking responsibility and continuing to fight for and take care of our people. You are a true Magahaga. Liz continues, one last one before your head gets too big and explodes. Other senators need to follow your integrity and leadership. I don't live on Guam, but I see and hear from other people that you're honest in your work ethic.
Thank you so much to all of those comments. But Chris, if I could just talk about two more things real quick. I know you got to go to the news. One is we're having a hearing November 3rd, 4 p.m. It's going to be virtual, so if you need assistance to get onto this virtual hearing, call my office. We will help you. They're not allowing in-person hearings here at the legislature right now because of the COVID, but this is for RECA. This is to get Guam to be included under the Radiation Exposure Compensation Act, which would give each claimant $150,000. And this is for persons who were on Guam from 1946 to 1962 for 1 year during that period, and who have suffered from particular cancers. So we have the list of those cancers as well. That hearing is November 3rd, 4 p.m. And I'm asking the people of Guam to help us to get Guam included under that statute. I think that's going to do huge things for healthcare on Guam. I'm also
That's
asking,
also, Speaker, something that has been talked about for years. And was it the late Dr. Chris Paris? Was he?
Yes.
Was he part of? Wasn't there a blue ribbon panel that was
Yes.
established?
Yes.
To look at? Yeah. Yeah, it has been.
So many people, so many names like that, right? Chris Perez, Dr. Perez is a huge one. He brought lots of credibility to Robert Celestial was doing all the work pretty much by himself. When he partnered with Dr. Perez, that helped him to bring lots of credibility. They formed, panels. They were able to convince senators at the time who had started off completely skeptical, right, as to whether these were true facts. And they proved to them these were the facts and these were the incidences that resulted from these things. So then they were able to convince, the National Academies of Science or the panel that they appeared before. And it's huge work that has been done over decades. You're right. And it's decades of senators before me. And I am praying that this is going to be the year. It looks like we've got, congressmen and senators on the same page because the bills mirror each other. They're perfectly identical, which is great, I think, for our efforts in Congress. And so we're hoping that this is going to get passed this year. I really believe this is going to change healthcare on Guam tremendously, and especially cancer, right? We're talking about cancer care here, which is a huge, huge issue on Guam. The other thing I wanted to point out when we were talking about excess lands, I'm still working on, we're expecting a FOIA response from DLM today, and I will share whatever I get with you. But I've been trying to get my finger on whether there have been other lands that have been returned. The rumors are that the land's been returned, including USO, the beach, including other lands, and but that we haven't heard about it. And clearly the ancestral landowners have not heard about it. They've not been given to the Ancestral Lands Commission. So somewhere in this process, they may be being slated for other purposes. And I would like that to be very public. Again, it's bypassing the process that we normally have. And if they have another purpose in mind, I think they should be upfront with the people of Guam and show us that the lands have been returned and that they are keeping them for some purpose and make it very clear. But thank you.
Wow.
Oh, thank you. No, and I think we actually have a list as well from FOIAs that we sent.
I made a list, so those are in my letters, and I can share that with you as well.
Okay. Right on.
Thank you. Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you, Speaker. Okay. That's right on. It's 8:23. Let's go ahead and get